preschool administrative leaders out there. This is Dr. Christine Wilson, and I want to draw your attention today to symbols. There's symbols all around us, all the time. In fact, there's a very well-known symbol on my hat here. It's the little swoop. And the symbol really is more than just the name that comes to mind when you see that swoop. But it also embodies a lot of feelings. It embodies a lot of emotions and associations to that particular brand name. So there are symbols all around us all the time. And I'm not necessarily here today to speak about the symbols that we see around us in everyday society. But what I do want to speak to you about today is one of the 4 frames of leadership that Bolman and Deal discuss in their book, The 4 Frames of Leadership. That is a book that I recommended to you a couple of weeks ago in my last vlog, my last video blog. And I talked about the 4 frames, and I said that I would cover each one of them because each one of them has been a huge part of the research that I've done. So let's talk about symbols today. The symbolic frame is one of the 4 frames of leadership that leaders don't always necessarily think about. But in the research that I've done, it turns out that the symbolic frame provided one of the most robust results in terms of both my qualitative and my quantitative data. Why is that? Because your symbol, your perception, and what you embody as a leader in your preschool organization is almost everything to your followers, that being your staff. So let's talk about this. One of the first things that I really noticed is that leaders need to begin to embrace the idea that you are a cultural hero. A cultural hero is someone who embodies the core values of their organization through their deeds and their words. They exemplify and reinforce those deeds and those words through everything that they do. And how you're perceived as a leader by your followers and by your staff, and how you create a culture based on that symbolic nature that you're embodying has everything to do with whether or not you're a very high quality or a not so high quality preschool program. So let's talk about you being a cultural hero, a symbolic leader in your organization. What are the values that you have in your organization? The ones that you state that you have, the ones that you might find in your mission statement or your vision statement. And do you actually exemplify and reinforce those in the things that you do and say every day? This is not to say that you should go around being a very scripted person, but how you act and the way that you move throughout the day and the things that you say and the decisions that you make symbolically represent, or should symbolically represent, all of those core values that you have in your program. So for example, we talked about organizational learning a couple of months ago in one of my very first few video blogs. Obviously, organizational learning is about utilizing the resources around you to learn more about what's happening in your program. If you are a person who, let's say, you go visit your classrooms every morning to check in, symbolically speaking, what you say and what you do on a daily basis with regard to checking in on your classrooms is very important, and it leaves a lasting impression on your staff. If you're going around to do checks on your teachers. If you're there basically to see whether or not the quality of their teacher-child interactions are up to snuff, then symbolically speaking, that is a value, a core value that you're putting forth in the way that you simply move throughout your day. If that's not what you want for your program, then that is not what you should do. In fact, I found out that the highest quality programs on a ritualistic basis, those preschool administrative leaders go around to their classrooms every day to gather information, to do the organizational learning. And decision making is mutual. There's an egalitarian aspect to how these preschool administrative leaders conduct themselves with their staff. So, symbolically speaking, that preschool administrative leader embodies egalitarianism, teamwork, and collective interest and a collective identity for the greater good. What would the greater good be, symbolically speaking? Well, another finding that I had in my research was that what you have in the surroundings of your preschool program embody and symbolize your core values as well. So if your clients, being your parents and your children that are enrolled in your program, are the most important value, the most important thing to your preschool program, it should be reflected in the surroundings. If it's not, you'll see other things in the surroundings. This is not to say that you can artificially create these, but what you can do is you can start to begin to take a look around your preschool program and see what it is that you value the most and that you symbolically are representing that you value the most towards your staff and towards your children and parents. What do they see when they walk in the environment? What do they hear when you speak to them? How are you a cultural hero? And how do you incite being a cultural hero in others? So again, symbolically speaking, this is a very important aspect of leadership that I really want all of you to think about. There's so much more actually to the idea of being a symbolic leader. So, for example, there's the idea that your core values are something that you don't use against your staff or personnel. Let me give you an example. Because the high quality leader believes in egalitarian relationships and values the knowledge and skills that their staff have, what you'll see very little of is you'll see very little ostracizing of staff. And what do I mean by ostracizing? What I mean by that is you may not be aware that you are giving praise to some and not to others. You may not be aware that you're holding some sort of power, disgruntled, disappointed feelings as a leader in your preschool program towards your staff, because the truth is you haven't allowed their talents and you haven't allowed their ideas to really become a part of how things get done on a daily basis. In other words, it's not a part of the culture. So how are you ostracizing your staff in that way? How do you communicate with your staff, symbolically speaking? The high quality programs tend to speak directly to their staff, and they make time to speak directly to staff. Obviously, when there are, meetings and things like that, those are always obviously accounted for on paper. There's a written recording on paper. But do all of your communications with your staff have to be on paper? Do all of your communications with staff have to be through email? Are you creating some kind of distance between yourself and your staff that isn't egalitarian by putting up, let's say, a Dropbox where they can put their ideas in a box, or write them on a whiteboard or a chalkboard, or drop you an email? Symbolically speaking, you're creating distance between yourself and your staff. And you then represent something that is not within a team spirit, not egalitarian. So I want you to think about the ways that you communicate with staff symbolically, how you embody the core values of your program symbolically. And I definitely do recommend that you pick up the book. It is a big book. And it is by Bolman, Bolman, and Deal, Deal, Bolman and Deal. And they talk about the 4 frames of leadership. So that's our video for today. I'm glad that you could see me in my Nike hat today, very casual today. The next time I see you, we'll be talking about another one of the frames of leadership that is posited by Bolman and Deal. I don't know which one yet. Probably, there were 2 that came out in my study that were very, very salient and robust in their findings. I think I'll stagger them. And we'll talk about another one next week. So I hope that this video was very helpful to you to think about how you symbolically embody the values, the core values in your program, and how you are portraying those values simply by the things that you say and do, the things you have on your walls, and how you communicate with staff. Okay, so I will see you again next time. Love and respect, and catch me on my YouTube channel, Pre-K Coaching. Take care, bye.